Hi there, Nigel Saunders here. I'm back for part 3 of Bougainvillea Bonsai here in the Bonsai Zone. I try to answer all the comments on my YouTube videos. Sometimes I get behind. I'm quite far behind in the viewers' picks. I have hundreds of viewers' picks, so I may have to do a separate video just on viewers' picks. So that'll be coming up sometime. So let's get out into the plant room now and start working on the remaining Bougainvillea bonsais. I'm here with Julian, and the first tree we're going to be working on is his Bougainvillea bonsai. So Julian, what is your plan for the tree? What do you think it needs doing the most?
Cutting off this branch.
And why?
Because it's growing really long.
It is growing really long. It has beautiful flowers though, doesn't it?
Yes.
Are you willing to sacrifice your flowers?
Yes.
This time? Okay, we're going to do it. They're almost done anyway. Some of them were already starting to fall off, so they're beautiful though, aren't they? I like them. Okay, so yeah, it needs pruning down. It's just getting too long. And where do you think you'll cut it?
Right here.
Somewhere right in about here. I think that's good. You're keeping all your branching there. All right, let's get out the pruners and start work.
This is going to be a big cut, so here I go. I'll put the cutting in water to grow a new tree. So here I go. The next step for this tree is to repot it. I've got all my tools out, so let's begin. So I'm going to loosen up the tree in the pot. The next step is to take the tree out of the pot. I'll save the moss and put it back on the tree after repotting. I'm going to try to get it off in one piece if I can. Next step is to rake the roots in a radial pattern. I'll mist the roots to keep them moist while I'm working. Now that the roots are raked, we can correct any problems with the roots. We're going to trim this one off because it's a little too long. And we're going to trim this one off because it's not at a good angle. With the roots trimmed and balanced, it's time to repot the tree. My first step will be to clean the pot. The pot's clean, and I have my drainage screen in the bottom, so let's start filling it up with soil. Next, I'll position the tree in the pot. This is a possible front for the tree. We'll take a look at it when it's in the soil. Everything's looking good. It's time to water the tree. So here I go. Next I'll use the watering can and give it a good soaking. I'm going to put the moss back on now. I'm going to give the moss a trim to make it look nice and tidy. My work is done on this tree. I'm going to put it back on the shelf and let it grow.
The next bougainvilleas I'll be working on is this clump of cuttings. I'm going to plant them in my 3D printed bonsai pot. I've kind of painted this pot to look like ancient marble, so it's kind of weathered with a bit of green on the sides. So let's get planting. This pot isn't very large, so I might have to mound the soil up a bit in it. But we'll see. I may not even separate the trees. I may just put them in as a clump in here. I'll start by getting the trees out of the pot. I should be able to get them out. There we go. Lots of good fine roots. All right, let's get them combed out and we'll get them test fitted in the pot. Okay, we'll start raking out the soil. It's important to get nice surface roots on these little miniature plantings. And to get your roots nice and radial and of a uniform size. You don't want one giant root and the rest of the roots really tiny. You want them fairly equally balanced. I think I am going to have to separate these trees. The roots just aren't fine enough and uniform enough to keep it as a clump. So I'll try and separate them. I'm just going to pull them apart like this. There's another one and another one and another one. Yeah, you can see how the roots need correcting. They're just one thick one here, two medium-sized ones, and a few fine ones. So got to equalize that. Weather like this is just perfect for repotting here in the plant room. I get the south sun shining in the window all day. It's 37 degrees in the plant room right now and probably 80% humidity, so just perfect for plant growth. Here's a shot of the root systems. So I'm going to have to come in and prune them, trying to get a flat root plane. So we'll come in here. This is the first time these cuttings have ever been root pruned, so it's a good start. Good start to a nice root base. These trees are way too tall to go in a small pot like this, so I'm going to have to cut them down in height, and I'll cut them down to a point where they'll have no leaves or no foliage on them. They'll just be little sticks sticking out of the soil. When the new leaves grow in, they'll start to look like miniature trees. The trees with the thickest trunks will be the tallest trees, and the ones with the more skinny trunk will be shorter. So here I go. I'm going to prune. There is a leaf bud here, and I'm thinking, I better shorten it. I'm going to go right down to here. So that's my tallest tree. My second thickest trunk is here, so I'm going to prune it even shorter. And then we're going to go even shorter on these trees and really short on this one. I'll save these cuttings and replant them, and maybe we'll add to the forest someday. I'll put a drainage screen in the pot, and then we'll fill it with some soil and start planting the trees. I'll cut away one large drainage screen to go in the bottom of the pot. So I'll just go around the edges here. There. That fits in nicely. I'll put a very thin layer of soil on the bottom of the pot, just enough to cover it, and then we'll put our trees on top. I'll place my largest tree up front here. We'll try and pick a nice root base for it, somewhere about there. There. The second tree, I think we'll put it towards the back here. Try it there anyway. And we'll put one tree, the third tree in the corner here. There. And we'll put our fourth tree, which is an odd number, but I'm sure I'll be putting some more cuttings in here later on. And I'll put it somewhere back here, but I'm going to have to move this one forward more to about there, I think. I'll see how that looks now. I'll put some soil in just to hold the trees in the pot better so they don't fall over. And have a look at the arrangement. Well, think I have to move my number 1 tree over more to about there. And I think that's not too bad. I'm going to move this one over and make it kind of part of the group for now. Maybe like that. We'll try it like that. I'll get my smallest spoon and start adding the soil in. Trying to get it around the trees. And this is just my standard soil mix. A lot of people say, you know, on these small plantings, shouldn't I use a finer soil in it? And I find it's better just to use your regular soil and top dress it with sand or moss to hold the water in the pot better so it doesn't dry out in the wind too quickly. And it seems to work well with the regular bonsai soil. So now I'm going to try and get the soil worked in around the trees while I'm holding them vertically. I'll give the planting a mist now, so make sure it's really light. Get the soil wet. I will top dress the planting with some washed play sand, which is just ordinary sand, kind used in sandboxes. The next step will be to clean up the soil surface a bit. So here's a chunk of perlite that's really big. You don't need that there. You're still going to see the perlite until the moss grows in, but it's far from being done, this planting. This is just taking cuttings and creating something with them. A lot of times cuttings just grow and no one does anything with them, and they get passed around at club meetings. No one wants cuttings, they just want trees. Until finally, one day someone does something with the cuttings and they become little bonsai trees. There's a shot of my miniature Bougainvillea bonsai forest. It's hard to imagine what it'll look like someday with leaves and branches and moss. I think it'll look quite nice someday in the future. So we'll keep you updated on the progress of this planting. I created a similar planting with my Serissa cuttings, and I mentioned that they're fairly high maintenance because everything grows quite quickly, including the moss. So this planting needs some cleaning up. You can see the moss is growing almost right over the mountain. It's almost covered it right up. It's growing all over the lips of the pot. So I'm going to come in and trim it up and make it look as good as it can for today. I'll start by coming in and just pruning the moss away from the lip of the pot. So I just cut it away and it peels off. This is also planted in a 3D printed pot. Not all of the cuttings have survived. There was two here that didn't sprout anything, but that's the way it goes. Some make it and some don't. These little miniature forest bonsai plantings are perfect for people living in apartments, people in wheelchairs. You can do all the gardening and have a lot of fun, and you can hold the planting in your hand. You also don't need a really old tree to make an attractive forest. These are just cuttings. You can create a forest with cuttings that are just 1 or 2 years old, and they'll look like ancient old trees. I'm just pruning the moss away here, pruning it back down to size. If you like the idea of these 3D printed pots and stands, you can send me an email and I'll send you the STL file so you can print your own. The sun set on another day here in the Bonsai Zone. I hope you enjoyed Julian's presentation and mine too. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here in the bonsai zone.